Welcome back to another video. I'm Alise where we talk about mindset, music, and happiness. Today we're going to be talking about why it's so hard to achieve the dreams that we actually want so badly, what goes behind that, and how you can change that in your life, basically. So stick around, I'll see you soon. Okay, today is Mindset Monday. And particularly, we are going to be talking about how to reach our goals or our dreams, especially as musicians. I think we have big dreams, and that's good, and we should have them. But why do we struggle so much to achieve them, even though we want them so badly? Now, there's a book I've been reading, and yes, everyone talks about it, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I always take the cover off because I think it's just annoying when you're reading. So anyways, this is what it looks like. And I've been kind of putting it off because I'm like, oh, it's been so overhyped and all that stuff. But then I gave it a shot and now I love it as well. And just a little side note, the way I personally read books, it kind of looks like this. So on the front page, when you open up, it'll look like this. The main reason being that when I read through the book, I put my best, the really aha epiphany moments right at the front or the back of the book. So when I read the book again after a couple of months or years even, all I have to do is open up the front page and I'll know what I've learned from reading the book. So that's just a little side note. If you want to learn more about this, you can go to my members area. The link is down below, or I'll link it up somewhere up here, where I talk about the process of how I take what I learn through books and then implement them into my life. But right now we're going to be talking about something else, and that's something that I wrote down as the 1% rule right here. Hope you can see that. But he talks about that on page 15. So for those people that want to follow along, you can do that there. And this is something that, again, was an epiphany moment. So I went to the front cover and it's right here. He says, why small habits make a big difference. And he says, it is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Let me read that again. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action, right? And I know that for me was a kind of I don't know, like a punch in the gut a little bit, because that's exactly what I thought. Was like, oh, if I want big changes in my life, if I want to achieve my dreams, I need to make huge changes. And that's actually not the case. And he says, whether it is losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth-shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. Meanwhile, improving by 1% isn't particularly notable. Sometimes it isn't even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. The difference a tiny improvement can make over time is astonishing. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to 0. What starts as a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much more. On the next page, then, he has this little paragraph that you can see. So the dotted line is basically just neutral. But then you can see those 1% improvements, they're not noticeable at the beginning. But then as time goes on, this arrow goes up very drastically. And the same thing is like if you go in the wrong direction, it's kind of a little bit more noticeable, as you can tell, but not too much. And then we just kind of go completely in the wrong direction. And there's actually an interview I had with Steven where he talks about something very interesting that I've never seen that way before. And he says, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And here's a little clip.
How you do one thing is how you do everything. So he takes this to like in a very extreme level, where he like won't stop a song and start a new song on like his iPod until it like finishes. Cause he's like, I'm a finisher. Like I finish everything I start. So he's like, I won't like finish half my food. I won't finish half of a song. If I start a movie, I'll watch it all the way to the end, even if the movie sucks and I want to, you know, whatever, barring some emergency, like I will finish that movie. And it's like, it's funny, like you start with like little things and then you down to like do a project and you're like, well, look at my track record of the last like month. I've finished everything I've started. Like, why would this big project be any different? You know? So I started trying to do stuff like that where I was realizing that I was like not taking some things in life like super seriously, you know. I was just kind of, it's just like, you know, exercise. Like I'll just go to the gym and like, you know, get my gym, you know, workout in or whatever. And it's like, but if that's how you do it at the gym, then when you sit down to make music or you work on your business or you serve your customers or something, like you're gonna half-ass that too, you know, because like how you do things is how you do everything. So it's just like so many like golden nuggets of like business coaches that like apply to music. It's insane.
Now that kind of blew my mind. Obviously that was a very like drastic example, but I think it just really shows the point is those little changes that we make will influence our future, therefore achieving our dreams or not, and B, our decisions. Like if I'm already making all these small decisions in a certain way, then when I have to make this big decision, I'm gonna fall into that habit and make that big decision the same way I've been doing it all my life. Okay, you're not all of a sudden gonna make something very different. There's actually a quote that I really like. It's by President Packer, and this is what kind of really blew my mind. He says, our lives are made up of thousands of everyday choices. Over the years, these little choices will be bundled together and show clearly what we value. So again, all these little decisions we make on a daily basis that we don't even notice, they will add up to these really big life-changing things. And again, that's what James Clear talks about in the book, is accumulation. I got this idea from Clark, so if you want to check him out, go do that. I love his video. Give props where props are due. And he talks about like our dream life and then our reality. And they're kind of parallel to each other. So in order to get from our reality to our dream, something needs to change, right? And those are habits. But I'm not going to get into that right now. For simplicity reasons, let's just call them habits for now, okay? So the reality is right here, okay? And for us to get from a reality to our dream life, we need to get certain habits in place or change certain habits. So now what James talks about is those 1% changes. This is very smeared. I am sorry. Right? So we want to go from here to down there. I can't get there. And you can see here, right? Up here, this is a very, very small change. Very small. But here's the thing. Over time, this gap gets bigger, okay? And at some point, we will reach our dream destination. But the thing is, it will take much longer. So that's why in the beginning they're not noticeable, and so we keep doing them and keep doing them, and at some point over time this will show. This is also where James talks about time magnifies, which is a whole new subject on its own, but time magnifies. So in the beginning it's not going to show much, they're not noticeable, right? But the longer you do them, they will show up. Because when Facebook kind of pops up those pictures where like, oh, this happened a year ago, or this happened 5 years ago, or you've been friends with this person for like 10 years or whatnot, you're like, wow, that was 10 years ago. And you're like, I can't believe this is where I was 10 years ago, or you're like, dang, like I'm still in the same position that I am right now, nothing much has changed, right? And that's, again, time magnifies. So this gap will get bigger and bigger, and at some point you will get to your destination. The question is, are you making positive 1% changes and end up at your dream destination, or are you making negative small little changes that are getting you in the completely different direction? Okay, so what we're most drawn to as human beings, we want to make those big changes, right? We think we need to make these huge changes, okay? This is what he talks about in his book, right? We think if we want big success, we need to make big changes, and that's not the case at all, because yes, it gets us there faster, right? But those big changes aren't sustainable. Now, here's the thing. Through today's society, we're kind of made into this generation of I want it now, or I want it like yesterday. Like, I want instant gratification. It needs to happen fast. Like emails, right? Even a letter that takes a day or two is too slow. It needs to be an email. It needs to happen now. Through social media, we can get updated so fast, or the news, or everything else. Like, everything is fast, and it's getting faster, and that's why most of the time we can't keep up, and then we wonder why we burn out or become unhappy because we're trying to keep up with the speed that's like nearly impossible. But again, I'll make an entire video just on that. That's its own issue in itself, but again, we are just made to get, I want fast results and I want them now. Okay, so we are more drawn to making these huge changes, right, that get us to our dream life or outcome faster. But the thing is, these huge changes, they're not sustainable. We'll fall back into our old pattern really quickly, because the way our brain is wired, it doesn't like change. And again, it's a whole new topic on its own. I'll have an entire video where I just talk about the brain and why it's basically nearly impossible to make big changes like that unless you have the right tools and you know how your brain works. Then it's okay. But for the majority of us, we don't know. Well, we don't know. And so these big changes right here are very, very hard to make. And so that's why for New Year's, we have these big dreams and aspirations, and we want to change our life, and we're so motivated, but motivation alone is not going to cut it. And so we do it for a week or two, or for a month or two, or even half a year if you're like super dedicated, but it's not going to be a long-term solution. And that's why these 1% changes are so more effective, because they're small changes that we can handle, our brain can handle, but we just need to be more patient with them, right? They just take longer for us to get to our dream life destination. And I love what Tony Robbins says. He says, we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade. And I love that. I think that just kind of really sums us up very nicely. Is really, okay, 1% changes are more sustainable. We can do that. They're doable, because like I can do this one little thing, right? But it just takes longer for us to get that end result we want. And that's why we think when we want big big results and achieve these big dreams, we think we need to make these big life-changing decisions, when that is really not the case, because we'll do it for a little while and then stop doing it, and that's not Yeah, and then we just stop doing that. But it will just get us there faster. But for how long, right? That's why we lose a lot of weight, but then we gain it right back because of our old habits, because we just made these drastic changes, but they're not sustainable. So we fall right back into the trap that we were in before. The same with like musicians. Like, it doesn't matter what that goal is. If we make these fast, drastic decisions, we'll get there for a little while, right? We'll follow this dream right here, and then we'll fall back right to our reality where we were before. So I hope that this makes sense, and I'm sorry for the really roomy sound. Right now we're kind of transforming my office into the baby's room. I'm actually 31 weeks pregnant right now out of 40 weeks. That means I'm due at 9. So in a little bit over 2 months, I'll have a little baby here, so that'll be interesting. I don't know how I'm gonna be filming this video, but yeah, so that's why the side that you can't see is really cluttered and has all the baby stuff over there, and so the sound is not the quality that I usually have or would like to have, but it didn't stop me from making this video. I hope that this made sense. At least this is how I was able to understand, okay, this is where I'm really, a little bit impatient with myself, and that's why they're not sustainable. That's why those 1% habits are so much more sustainable. So then next week I'll be talking about really the reason why the big one is not sustainable is because of our brain, actually, the way our brain is made. And next week I'm going to be talking exactly about that, is how our brain is really holding us back to achieving our dream life. So if you want to learn more about that, which will blow your mind, I promise you, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get notified as soon as that video comes out. And if you like the video, just give it a like. And if you want to know how I set goals and how I put up systems, I just use this little tiny planner. And it really helps me just to stay on track and everything, and how I plan out my day, and it kind of looks like this. So if you want to know how all of this works, I'm actually putting together an online course right now that you can find in the members area. So everything will be linked up down below, and you can find out how I actually go and achieve the goals that I want to. Alrighty, then I'll see you in the next one. Bye.